It is Wednesday night again, and this is the Wednesday Night Mouse Party. And with me tonight is G23. How's it going, G23?
It's going great. Finally got the 4473 returned on Monday, saying I could proceed and go pick up my new firearm. So had a doctor's appointment yesterday, so I had to go today and get it.
Oh, it's good. Are you pretty much all healed up now?
Yeah. What, about a month ago or so, I think I posted on my community tab that I was kicked out of wound care. They said, you're good. You're good to go.
That's good. So there we go. At the bottom of the screen, there is an email address and a link. You can send in suggestions, comments, or pictures within reason to untacticalfuss@gmail.com, or the link, and the link will get you somewhere. And in the description, there's a link for the overnight Gilded server. It's another place that you can kind of hang out, share pictures, memes, talk about stuff. You can always get a hold of me there, or get a hold of a lot of the people that come on the chat. And let me get back to the comments. Okay. There is no poll for this week. I forgot to do a poll. I remembered a couple times that I had forgotten, but then I would forget that I remembered. So I never got around to making a poll for this week. All right. So far out there is just Gizzard Gary and DJ Plain Ice. My internet is being kind of goofy, so hopefully it'll hang together so we can make it through the chat.
Well, it could be like last. It could be like last week, where we at 7 minutes we thought it was going to be over, and next thing you know, an hour and a half later, we're still going.
I had tried to do a Wi-Fi bridge out here, but when I got it hooked up, it was even worse. So for now, we'll just suffer through the sometimes spotty internet.
You tried a Wi-Fi booster?
I've tried them in the past a couple times, and they just don't really seem to work that well. So, yeah, I don't know. My wife has talked about doing the, can't think of the name for it, like the Nest, where it's kind of like that, where there's a bunch of boosters, but it's all set up together with one system. But I don't know. I just haven't wanted to spend the money on it, because it's overall we get pretty good coverage. Just kind of out here, for some reason, it'll drop. I don't know if there's interference with something between here, because I'm only probably, I'd say maybe like 30 feet, but there's one, two, like maybe three walls between the Wi-Fi router.
Have you tried removing all the 9mm ammo from the room? A lot of times that just causes havoc to a Wi-Fi signal.
That might help. Maybe if I bring in more 10mm, that'll boost.
That'll attract a signal. It's a strong signal amplifier.
How are you doing tonight, G-Whips?
Well, for the Midland, been better, been way worse before, so I'm not complaining. How y'all doing on your side of the internets?
Doing all right. I forgot to do a poll for this week, so there's no poll.
You don't really need a poll when we have a bracket.
Well, there's no bracket. Brackets should be something special, and it's only special if it happens once in a while. If you do a bracket all the time, then people start to I'm having trouble wording. They take their brackets for granted. Gary says 45 ACP will improve the signal. I'm hoping by the end of the year to have a 45 ACP, but
it was invented. That's how radar was invented. There was a bunch of people wearing 1911s in the middle of the ocean on those boats or whatever the Navy uses, and then they figured out that the 45 ACP, it's kind of like Spidey sense, could tell when danger was coming, and then the Navy boats were able to sense the danger based on the 45 ACP using some kind of little television screen in a circle.
But I got talking to a buddy at work, and he has just recently started carrying a pistol for self-defense, and he's starting to run into all the little things that you learn when you first start carrying. And I know this topic has been covered lots of times, but there's always new people or people new to carrying. So it's stuff that, you kind of learn as you start carrying, the kind of small things. So I thought he had asked me the topic, and I couldn't remember if we did cover that specifically as a topic. I know I've talked about it in other people's chats. So I told him, yeah, we can kind of talk about it. So I thought we might do that
I
tonight.
guess I missed the topic then. What is it?
Oh, just I don't know how to title it, but when you first start carrying, just the small things that you run into, like you have to go to the bathroom. What do you do with your gun? Little stuff that you might not think about.
Like you're walking around and a bunch of girls come up and start hugging on you and kissing you and you're grabbing on you. That happens to me all the time.
That is the thing that some people don't want other people to know, and that's something that I think about, like when my daughter, if she runs up to grab me or, is climbing on me if I'm laying on the couch, then I try and make sure that she's not on my right side, so she's not knocking into my pistol if I have it on me.
People I know, depending on how old the kid is, their kid knows not to kick, mommy or daddy in the gun. One, it's going to hurt their foot, and two, it's dangerous. So at some point, I guess you have to, be like, both people have to be aware, I guess, just the same way as if you had a heart monitor or one of those ear things or some other kind of gadget that you're connected to. But when they're real little, I imagine, and like a puppy or something, like you're never going to teach a puppy, hey, don't come up and jump on my gun, or don't jump on mommy's, holster down there or whatever. Ladies are always carrying holsters in funny places.
So that was kind of the topic that we'll figured we talk about.
Well, a new gun owner, are they going to be? Is this the person that you took shooting, or is this somebody else?
Yeah, it's one of the people that I'm
interested in shooting. Is it like a new hobby? Because that's something that
he
may or may not realize, that you're like, oh wow, guns are not just a tool, but a sport or a collector thing, or like just a I don't know, a modification thing. You know, people just like buying them.
Yeah, he joined a range before he actually bought his pistol, so he could try out different ones and then see what he liked. And now he does go down to the range. So it's he got it for kind of self defense, and you know he likes to go hiking and stuff. So but he had mentioned like going to the bathroom and then realizing he has to figure out how to handle this weight on his belt, because he has both inside and outside the waistband holsters, and he's kind of using both and trying to figure out, does he like one more than the other, or if he wants to just do both depending on what he's doing. And it was one of the people that I took to the range, and I had I can't remember if it was had talked about it on here or if talking with him in person, but like when I first started carrying, I was really nervous about it, and so I carried an empty gun around the house to start with, just to get used to the feel of it, and then would do dry fire practicing, but just on the draw, where I would draw to get to the point where I could draw and not finger the trigger automatically. Like, when you're a kid and you're playing with the gun, it's your finger's always on the trigger. So once I got to where I could pull my gun out and not be touching the trigger unless I wanted to be, then I started carrying outside the house. That's kind of how I eased my way into it. And I mostly inside the waistband. If I carry outside the waistband, it'll be with a revolver, because for me, a revolver has to be a leather outside the waistband holster. That's where they belong. But I'll still have a shirt over it, so it's it's not really open carry. And so I'm not concerned, like in the pre-chat, G23 was talking about he opens carries and he likes a retention holster. So which level are you up to, G23?
I run level 2 OWBs, so outside the waistband holsters.
So why don't you explain what that is for somebody, if somebody hears this and doesn't know level 1, level 2.
Okay, so I don't know. This is a level 2. You got your thumb brake here and everything. So your firearm sits here, and this will release it.
So there's basically like a little lock that holds it in there until you press that little button.
Yeah. Yep. And so that one's for my SIG, and I have the same level 2 setup for my 23, but then I do have a couple IWB holsters, so inside the waistband holsters, and those I don't run any other retention. Like, I don't run a level 2 or level 3. And for anyone who doesn't know what a level 3 is, it's got, not only does it have like your thumb brake or a finger brake to release, but it's also got a hood that goes over, which is what a lot of your law enforcement will carry. So you actually have to release the hood and then release the firearm. Those are, I guess, really good if you're worried that you're going to be going hands on with like and wrestling around for long periods of time. But for the average person, a level 2 is probably the most you'll ever need.
CNT Designs and Arms is out there. Good evening, Coop.
So one of the ways you can describe a holster is like if it's inside your pants or outside, so inside the waistband or outside the waistband. So pretty much when you're describing a holster to somebody, you're going to start with like, is it a waistband holster? Or is it a shoulder holster? So that's where the retention becomes a characteristic of a holster. And police and people like that are going to want a holster that can't be taken by some bad guy. Or if they fall over, they're riding a bicycle and they fall over, they don't want their bicycle or gun to go flying. So it's retained. And over the years, they've made levels of retention to be like just maybe a tight holster or something that's just not going to let a gun fall out loosely. Then there's the loose holster. And then there's that one that has to do something to get the gun out of it. And I think another reason besides just having bad guys fight you for it would be, again, if you're doing something like bike riding, or if you have a kid or something or a dog or something, you're going to be out dog walking and you're just concerned if you fall over or tumble down the stairs or something that you don't want a gun go flying, then a retention holster can be an added level of assurance. Most people have, I forget what it is, what level 1 is, like just friction or some sort of a lock that you don't have to do anything. It just lets go when you yank on it, but it's not going to just fall out. Like most people have a holster that does something like that. Most Kydex holsters kind of pinch, let's say, the trigger guard a little bit so that it's not just going to fall out, but you have to kind of yank it out. But I think that, again, same kind of thing as carrying around unloaded. It gives you that level of security as a new gun owner that you think you're going to lose your gun all the time, right? You think, oh my goodness, where's my gun? Where's my gun? You're checking your gun. I don't know. Usually
Yeah, that
gun owners talk about that.
That was after
So this
When I-
one is the
when I first started
IW.
carrying. That was something that I made a conscious effort not to play with my gun. It's there. I should know it's there. Just leave it there. On my hip. Don't move it. If I don't need to move it around, don't move it around. Just leave it alone. And that, it's kind of one of the tendencies when you're new, just to make sure it's there and secure. As long as you've got a good holster, it'll be there. So you don't need to play with it. What were you saying, G23?
So here's kind of I can show you. You got this one here, which is inside the waistband, IWB 0. This is just the retention of the Kydex itself. There's no retention, and then you've got your one that has your paddle. So you've got your button here to release. This is the OWB, the outside the waistband, level 2. Inside the waistband, just a regular Kydex. And there's no retention on that.
Yeah, I was gonna show. It's like I picked up this Kydex holster for my TSW, the CHP gun, and when I was trying to find holsters, I couldn't find any on the internet for that gun. And then just recently when I looked, there's tons of them now. I don't know why they didn't come up in the search, but so I had bought this Kydex because I wanted to be able to carry it. And this one isn't very good. There's, I don't have one of my better Kydex ones down here, but I like on my other ones, when you holster your gun, down here, it'll click onto your trigger guard. You'll hear a click, and then that's what holds holds it in. This one, it just kind of slides in, and there's no adjustment, so I can't. Some of them you can make tighter or looser. So I haven't actually put this on with the gun, so I'm just kind of doing it outside, playing with it. There's not a lot of good retention, but when it's pressed into your body, maybe that'll make it better. I don't know. But for my leather holsters, I love 1791 holsters, and they're with a leather holster when it's nice and tight fit. You pretty much have to pull it straight up. So if somebody tries to pull back or pull forward, it won't want to come out as long as you have a good tight fit. And
So, are you trying to talk about it sounding? You've got the nice lock in there.
yeah, it's not quite coming through your click, but
I don't know if you broke up or something. G23.
and this is another. I guess this would be a level 2. Would this be?
Yeah, that
considered
would be a level 2 with a thumb brake.
Yeah, it's got. So this loops up and over the gun, and then you just push sideways, and it pops open, and then you can. Let me do that again. So it's up against your body, and then with your thumb, you can pop. But when it's buckled, you can't pull the gun out. This is a cop holster that I got for the TSW.
It's an old police holster.
Yeah.
So that's like the evolution of tech right there. Because at the beginning, they didn't care. And then they'd put a little strappy thing. And then somebody figured out if you make that kind of thumb, what do you call that, thumb paddle or something? Like that rigid thumb
brake.
thing. And then you can make the thing deploy faster or whatever. And that was all tech. Like that was, I guess I'm a little too young for that, but I can remember the debates, I guess, around the gun shows and stuff about whether or not you needed or it was good or all that. Because before that, you had, think of like a single action where you just had a little, what would you call it, like a little tie of leather, like a little strap of leather that you'd wrap around the hammer if you were on horseback so that your gun didn't bounce out, but you weren't worried about the gun bouncing out because it was super heavy and super long. And it was like, unless you're doing cartwheels, it wasn't going to fall out of your holster almost ever. And then as guns got lighter and holsters got smaller because the guns are smaller, then you had to worry about your gun falling out. And then police had to worry about people taking stuff. So anyway, that's all the evolution. That was all reaction. And then the materials at the time, and they were used to leather. But then there is the dude, I forget the guy now. Is it McCormick? So whoever it was decided to start using Kydex. And then it wasn't like day and night, but the difference between Kydex and leather is a technology and materials like transition or like, evolution. I don't like leather. I mean, I understand leather and I understand its tradition and or whatever, but the problem with leather is once it's soft, once it's pliable, which leather does get after a while, no matter what, once it's pliable, you can't reholster it. The only way you reholster into an old leather holster is by jabbing the muzzle into your side and like trying to peel away the side of the holster. And that's my issue. So you're usually paying pretty good money for a handmade, fancy leather holster. And then after some amount of lifespan, which usually isn't that long carrying it, you can't reholster. And that's critical.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've heard other people talk about. I would think it would be, especially with kind of cheaper, thinner leather, where kind of this front part can
have you ever
start
seen
bending
Aker?
in.
Have you ever seen Aker? Yeah, it's the Aker, AKER. It's sort of like a cop holster back in the diamond.
Oh yeah.
Right days. They were more like a tan. Maybe Texas would use them, I think. Anyway, I really liked them. They're super strong, and I could get them cheap because nobody liked them as soon as Kydex was kind of hitting the scene. And anyway, even the strongest, thickest leather, it's leather. It's going to wear out. It's going to get soft and pliable. So it just starts to deform. And it's those corners. It's not the lip, it's the corners that the lip doesn't have anything to hold on to. So basically the whole thing caves in essentially. And it's just
Yeah.
because you're trying to put a bubble on the outside of a human body, it's the wrong curve. It's a, you know, the curve's going the wrong way.
If when this starts to curve inward, it can interfere with reholstering and can actually hit your trigger if this gets bendy and curves inwards. But I don't know, for me, I like leather for revolvers just because that's the way revolvers should be carried. I know you pocket carry it with a pocket holster, but for like a 4-inch, which I think is the perfect size for revolvers for symmetry, I like leather. And then for semi-autos, I like Kydex, but like my CHP gun, I want to get like a leather pancake holster for it. I just haven't found the one, and I kind of want Mike to make one for me, but I haven't talked to him about it. I don't know if he's still doing leather work. But DJ had mentioned belts.
I was going to ask about cant. That's not
Oh.
a thing anymore. Like I
I-
remember I had a ton of FBI holsters. I thought they were the coolest thing ever after Miami Vice and all of like, you know, watching cop movies throughout the 70s. And then nobody wanted them. You could get them at gun shows for $1 because nobody wanted them. And it took me a little while after carrying for real, carrying a 1911 and a FBI cant at 9 o'clock or whatever. Would that be?
Yeah.
4 o'clock or whatever that is, like on your kidney. Like it's cool, except for you can't draw from there. You can't reholster, and it's dumb. And like, you know, the holsters fall apart because that's essentially you're putting a piece of leather where your body is always smashing into a chair or a vehicle. So you put Kydex on the side of you and it never touches anything. And even if it did, Kydex don't care. But you take leather and you jam it behind you and it's constantly getting wear on everything. And it's, you know, it's never going to hold up. So anyway, I really remember the FBI cant. And nowadays, if you ask for cant, people look at you funny. Like that's like universally, nobody puts any kind of angle on the holster anymore.
I carry with a forward cant. I carry a 230. So if you're looking down at a clock, 3 o'clock would be your side. I carry 230, which would be just slightly forward with a forward cant. And for me, that fits my body where the gun kind of disappears when I've got it just right. It doesn't disappear quite as well as I put on weight. But for me, that's comfortable, and it's comfortable for the draw, for the hand position. So you can, let me hold this straight up and down. You can see this is angled. So when it's in my belt, it'll set angled like that.
So most of your newer, like your Kydex holsters, have the ability to adjust cant on there.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Like they'll have like a set of 9 holes and you only need 3 of them because there's like a pattern where you can kind of move it back and forth how you want.
Yeah, I will always look for one that I can put a forward cant on.
But the thing is, because of Kydex, you have to kind of release it. You have to pull out. A lot of times people just want to pull straight up, and they've been taught to pull straight up from their draw. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that's just a characteristic of it.
So back to...
We're not going to get into pocket carry.
We can.
We're still talking. We're kind of getting into holsters. Are we talking things that bug you when you're first carrying? Has he gotten past the like everybody thinks you're carrying? Everybody sees you got a gun.
I think he's still probably working through that. He didn't specifically mention it, but kind of the way he was talking, he's kind of in that area.
If you want to mess with somebody who's new, you shouldn't. But you can go up to them and go, "I can't believe you're wearing your gun like that. Everybody can see it."
When you always feel like, because it's always on your mind because it's something new and you're nervous about it.
Yeah.
You think everybody can see it? Nobody's looking at it. Nobody, everybody's doing their own thing. Nobody's going to even notice that you're carrying. I have open carried, went to the range with a buddy, open carried my revolver. He didn't even notice I had it on me until I pulled it out to shoot it at the range. Drew from my hip. And he goes, "Oh, you've got your revolver." Nobody's gonna look. Nobody notices. And I'll look at people when I'm walking around just to see if I can see if somebody's carrying. And I never see if somebody is unless they're open carrying.
I don't know. I'd say nobody notices because I've been thanked a couple times for carrying when I'm open carrying. But I've noticed a couple people that were concealed carrying, and it's mainly because when they were concealed carrying, they're not dressing to conceal carry. You can't wear super tight clothing and think that, hey, guess what? No one's gonna notice this big old bulge, on my hip or on the small of my back or wherever you're carrying. So you do kind of have to, if you're going to be concealed carrying, maybe wear a little baggier of a shirt so that people don't really notice. But if you actually care about like that, me, 99% of the time I'm open carrying, so I really don't care if somebody sees that I have a firearm or not.
One way, once you're experienced, you can kind of look back at people in the crowd or whatever and tell when somebody's carrying 9mm because they look like they're up to something or like they're ashamed of themselves.
DJ had mentioned belts. A good belt is good to have. I have a Next belt and a Core Essentials, and they have the Core Essentials has a plastic liner to stiffen the belt, so you can actually hold one end, and it doesn't flop.
Mm-hmm. They usually put like something like a milk container, like a milk jug, something about like that thickness. They sew that right in between two pieces of nylon usually.
The Next belt, I believe, from the way it looks, it's just a nylon, kind of a stiff nylon. So it's not quite as stiff, but when it's looped through your pants, you can't really tell the difference between the two, I don't think. But they're both stiff and designed to hold the weight of a gun. I haven't worn a regular leather belt, so I don't know how that feels. But there are like Hank's leather belts that people really love. They're kind of a thick leather belt for
just a plain old heavy belt will work. They're made for carrying stuff on your belt anyway, like a hammer or a saw or something that you might carry around. I guess not a saw, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I just went. I went with like I said, the Core Essentials and the Next belt. I like those too because they're ratchet. It's a ratcheting style where it's 1/4-inch increments. So you get you get basically like a custom fit. Whereas a normal leather belt will have like 1-inch adjustments. And if you have a leather belt, you can get a leather punch. I've done that with belts where I've added holes so they were 1/2-inch in between the holes instead of 1-inch to give you a little more adjustment.
Just open your belt up a little bit bigger than normal and jam an extra magazine in your belt line to kind of act like a wedge. And then if you eat too much, just pull that magazine out.
And then Core does have leather belts, leather gun belts also. So if you do want to have like a core belt, but you don't want the tactical kind of style, if you want to call it that, you can go with, they have a brown or black leather.
That's what I have. I have the leather because you can either get them in the leather or in the kind of nylon web.
So those nylon belts are called riggers belts, and those come from back in the day. The riggers are the people that put together a parachute. They rig a parachute, pack a parachute. So they were in charge of fixing parachutes and whatever happens with parachutes, right? So that they have all kinds of nylon strap and buckles and everything. So they would have these cool belts and lord them over everybody. And then eventually people would trade them for them and stuff. And then everybody started figuring out the usefulness of them. But essentially a rigger's belt is my favorite because it's strong enough to essentially be like a, like a repelling thing if you had to. It's not ideal, but they're strong. So I can attach the dogs to my belt and stuff. I mean, leather can do the same, I suppose, but I really like the nylon for the same reason you're talking about. It's infinite. It's just friction. It's just nylon going around a buckle usually. So there are no holes. It's infinitely adjustable for whatever you want at the time.
Screaming Skull Saloon said he has a Core Essentials. So does
And my
Coop.
belt buckle is essentially like a D-ring, kind of carabiner thing.
Yeah.
So if I want to, I can clip something on there. I really like that functionality. If I'm going to wear a belt anyway, I might as well be able to attach something to it. It's like I'm always thinking about where I'm going to put my dogs and stuff.
Screaming Skull says his friend has an X belt. I've never owned one, but may have to get one. I think they're decent. Coop had mentioned he likes the Core Essential buckles better than the Next belt. I thought they're comparable. A little, I'd have to be looking at them to just a little bit different, but work in the same fashion. And then for the Next belt and the Core Essentials, you kind of cut them to length. You get whatever size kind of covers you, and then add a couple inches because you've got, if you're carrying inside the waistband, you've got that little extra bulge, and then you can cut off the excess. And don't cut them, like I said, don't cut them exactly to size because you want that little bit of extra, especially if you end up adding on a couple pounds. You can't add on extra belt, which I found out.
Yeah, I think Core in their instructions, they say take your pant size. So if you wear a 38, cut your belt at like 42 to 44 so that you have extra room in case, for your holster. And then if you add weight or lose weight, you can kind of fluctuate with the belt.
DJ saying he's had a Next belt for 3 years and say it's been a quality piece that has exceeded expectations. I know I've heard a couple people that don't like the cores, and who was it? I forget, but there's kind of war. They wore theirs out, so they like Hank's, just a thick leather gun belt. I haven't had that
Problem with
problem.
leather is even the thickest leather is going to stretch eventually. It's going to start to give.
So I know a lot of people were having problems with like the first gen of core belts that were like not lasting very long, and then the Gen 2 and I think Gen 3, they've started. That's when they added a thicker rigidity plastic piece in there and changed some of the way of the sewing.
Yeah, in the leather ones look kind of like a dress belt, which is why I went with that one.
Do you put anything else on your belt? Do you carry like a phone on your belt or some kind of other pouch or some kind of other thing? tape
I-
measure or something?
I don't. Now and again, I might carry. I have carried, pocket knife, but I usually don't. Or if I'm carrying a revolver, then I'll have a double speed loader pouch. But normally I'm carrying a semi-auto, and I don't carry a backup magazine, which I know if my magazine fails, then the gun fails. I understand that, and I'm willing to deal with the consequences. So for me, basically, it'll just be my gun, and my phone. I keep in my front pocket, and then keys. I like to wear a jacket for the extra pockets. If I don't, then I'll put my keys in my front right pocket. Screaming Skull is saying his first core buckle broke after 8 months, but customer service was great, and they sent me a second gen buckle in less than a week, free of charge. And he's had the second gen buckle on that one for over 2-3 years and no issues. And DJ has an issue with the owner of Core. So so you were talking about pocket carry. You brought up pocket carry.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
I do pocket carry now and again, but it's basically just when I know I have to take my gun off because of where I'm going. So I'll put it in my pocket, and then when I get in the car, then I put it in the car. And I know I'll probably get flack for this, but I don't use a pocket holster. The only gun I pocket carry is my PPK, and it's got like a 12-pound double action hammer. I don't put anything else in that pocket, and the gun is the only thing to go in there, so there's nothing to activate that trigger. And yes, I know it should always be in a holster. But if I pocket carry, I don't use a holster. What kind of holster do you use when you pocket carry?
Safari Land, and it's like leather on the outside and Kydex on the inside, so there's nothing to stick to the gun at all on the inside, and then on the outside it's the suede, so it wants to stick to your pocket. Make them for J frames.
Do you ever pocket carry G23?
No.
Well, that's yeah. Yeah, there's I've never tried them. Like the sticky holsters are popular. There aren't those nylon, and then they have almost like a rubberized coating on the outside
They're like
to help
neoprene, like a bounce
Yeah.
or something.
to help it stay in your pocket. So if you draw, the holster stays in your pocket when you pull out your gun.
The only thing that kind of really kept me back from pocket carrying is the reholster. You have to like pull the holster out of your pocket, put your gun back in there, and then put it back in your pocket.
Screaming Skull says he runs a deep concealment Neomag sometimes, and I like it. It's kind of looking up I wasn't familiar with the Neomag is.
I used to magnetize all my tools all the time, so I'm never going to use magnets around any of my gun stuff at all. I don't want metal filings and stuff being
Well,
attracted
it's
to components of my guns.
yeah. Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a pocket clip for magazine, but it uses a
Magnet.
magnet to retain the magazine. That's I've been kind of I've thought about it, like a magnet for putting a gun in a certain spot, but I do have concerns about the fact that I'm possibly magnetizing my gun.
Oh, you're definitely magnetizing it. Take any magnet and any screwdriver and scrape them against each other. Just move them back and forth against each other, and your screwdriver will now be magnetized, and you'll be able to pick up screws with it. I'm in Arizona. If you drop a magnet into the ground here, you're going to pick it up, and it's going to feel all dusty and gritty because of all the magnetite in the ground.
Yeah.
So the dirt has iron in it. Like there's no way I'm going to do anything that's going to attract shavings. And I mean, metal shavings are horrible for guns. Like they get in there and they catch on like little hooks. So if you're around any kind of environment where there's metal shavings, and then splinters or little pins and staples and stuff like that, again, they just get right into where you don't want them to be. And staple, like especially like a piece of a staple, like a staple's a C shape. If a staple gets bent and just a piece of it, that little piece is definitely light enough to get attracted to even a little bit of a magnet. I like magnets for knives, and I like them for tools a lot. Like I really like those bar magnets that you stick on like a wall of a shed or something, and you can just stick all your tools and stuff on it. You don't have to go rummaging around for like a screwdriver or something. You just got it on this bar magnet. But I know that screwdriver is going to be magnetized. There's no way I want to do that to a gun or any kind of gun part.
At the old house I had, I think I had a couple of those in the shed. And I did find out that with those bar magnets, the more metal stuff you stick to it, the less attraction each metal thing has.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So it ended up where, I don't know, I can't remember what I had stuck to it, but something fell off because there wasn't enough magnetism in that bar magnet to hold everything that I had stuck to it.
Well, the good news is those things go on sale at like Harbor Freight every once in a while. If you go, if there's something you're interested in, wait till they go on sale, grab a couple, and then you just stick 2 of them, and then, essentially you double your magnetism again.
And I have one for knives in the kitchen, but it's, they basically put it inside of a piece of wood, so it doesn't look like a bar magnet.
Yeah,
It looks like a
cleaner
piece
and
of wood.
stuff. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, you stick your knife to the piece of wood. DJ said I bought a Galco that's a lot like Safariland pocket holsters, not quite the quality, but half price and more than up to regular use.
Well, the big thing is the Kydex lining. So that keeps it from ever, how like when you wrap leather around something, it's going to conform to it. That's the whole point of leather. So when that happens to a revolver, good luck ever getting it out of there again. So the Kydex kind of creates that internal slipperiness. But even with that, it's the leather has pushed around. Even that thin piece of leather has pushed around and kind of made it like a clam. Like, I could almost pick it up and hold it upside down and the gun ain't going to fall out. Although when I first bought it, it would definitely fall. But it's kind of old.
With leather holsters, like this one from 1791, to mold these to your gun, the way I do it is I just wrap my gun in a plastic bag. Some people will use saran wrap, but just a thin layer wrapped around your gun, and then I'll stick it in the holster and leave it in my safe for a week. And that'll create
stick it in the microwave for 30 seconds.
That'll create just enough space. Because when you first get a leather holster, it'll be really tight and hard to put your gun in. So it needs to be molded a little bit. That's the way I do it. There's special molding creams, I guess, or
leather conditioner.
Yeah. The easiest way is just, I don't know, that might be the better way, but the way I do it is just to wrap it in a plastic bag and shove it in there and leave it for a little while.
So I have a leather holster that was made for me by Mark Thomas on YouTube, and yeah, I just put a very thin amount of leather conditioner in there, and then put the G23 in a sandwich baggie and shoved it in there, left it in there for a couple days, and it's molded to the gun.
Chicago Mike the Shooter's out there. I guess good morning for you over there on the East Coast. So when you're out and about, stuff that you first start running into.
When you knock it on things or it hits a door or that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's can be a little alarming the first time it happens. You're walking by something and it knocks it and you hear that bang of it hitting something.
Yeah. And you're like, whoa, that was expensive. That you think it's dangerous because you're not used to it. And then you figure everybody in the world now knows that guy's got a gun and he's being reckless or something with it.
Yeah, that'll be, again, nobody.
No,
if anybody even notices, they're not going to know, what that noise was.
More likely than not, they're gonna think that it was just like your knee or your like arm hitting it, and then they're probably gonna say, "Are you okay?" If they even notice anything.
Screaming Skull said he used to make leather holsters for. Come on. There we go. For stormtrooper blasters. Yeah, and since I prefer the single clip inside the waistband, they're a little looser than like something with like this outside has 2 points. This will stay in place more than a single clip. So there are times where I need to adjust it. And when I do, I don't, if I'm around other people, I usually don't grab the gun itself. I'll pull my belt up like I'm pulling my pants up and then slide my hand over and kind of adjust it as I'm pulling my hand belt up. That way it doesn't look like I'm adjusting my gun. Larry Knopf is out there. Good evening.
Pretty sure I don't think about it anymore because you've got to take it off or you're leaving it somewhere or something. Like I don't even think about it. Just grab it. And just like if it was a flashlight or I don't know, you're gonna leave your wallet somewhere or something. It's just I think of it like I'm drink my phone in here. I'll just put it down. I just think of it like that.
Yeah.
Because as long as like you say, if you're not making a big production out of it, nobody's going to look over and be like, oh, that guy took something out of his pocket. Like, come on, nobody cares about shit like
that. Chicago Mike is saying one of my favorite holsters is from Holster Co.
So I know, like, if you're new and you have to go use a public restroom, especially like if you're gonna take a crap, I don't know. There's some people will say that they take their firearm off and they set it, so that no one else can notice. If I'm gonna do anything, then I'll shift it from 2:30, 3 o'clock to it being like, I don't know, 12:30, 1 o'clock. So it's more in the front. And then I can, this way, it's not easily seen under the stall, and I don't take it off and set it somewhere because, there's a chance that you forget that you set it on something like the toilet paper dispenser or the back of the toilet or whatever, you forget that it's there and you walk off and leave it.
Yeah, I don't take mine off either. If I have to sit down, it doesn't seem to be a problem. Just a little wider stance with your legs. Spread your knees out a little bit, and it'll stay near my hip. Some people they'll pull their pants down a little bit and then rebuckle. That'll hold everything kind of up.
Thing is, it's ridiculous. Every bathroom is different. Every situation is different. If you're in the one, let's say it's on your right side and you go to the stall, it's all the way to the right, so nobody could be to your right. That's a different situation than the opposite. It's on your right side and you have to be in the left stall. So there's all, in a busy bathroom versus you're the only one in there. So I think of that one as just be for somebody who's new. My advice is just like, I don't know, if you had a broken arm or something, be aware that it's going to be awkward when you go into places like bathrooms, and be ready to adapt. It's going to be weird. But having like a backpack or something, people don't talk about that kind of stuff. You can just take a couple of things of paper or one of those things and just lay it over there. You can cover it if it's a situation where somebody might come in or something. Anyway, there's just a lot of options, I think.
Yeah. And if I'm using the urinal, if that's another benefit of like the Core Essentials, the stiff belt. Just holding, hold the left side, and that'll kind of hold everything up so your pants don't fall down from the weight of your gun. And I've used the public bathroom with people around me, and I had a jacket, so it covered everything, but you couldn't see my gun, as I'm taking a piss.
What if you get some sort of deal like what the astronauts use, so that you don't have to even worry about it? It's not really a diaper; it's more like a vacuum system.
Then you might get the cops called on you. You're using the vacuum in the public restroom.
Well, that's the beauty. You can use it anywhere. You just go over to a unused corner of the yard or whatever. And
what are some other things that you kind of run into when you're first carrying?
Every time you get stopped by the police, probably.
I've never. I'm trying to think if I've ever even talked to a cop when I've been carrying.
I can't even count how many times I've been talked to or stopped or hang out with or get pulled over or whatever. Especially when you're traveling, they pull over Arizona plates because they think we're all doing stuff. For some reason, they think vans from Arizona or windows on them are doing stuff.
You're smuggling something.
Yeah, so I get pulled over, and anyway, there's that. Until you get used to it, and even when you get used to it, that doesn't mean that the other person involved in the situation is used to it, quote unquote. I'm sure if I got pulled over in New York State, I'd be somebody who's not familiar with having somebody with guns get pulled over. Kind of thing.
And that's one thing where you need to know your state law, whether you need to report or not. Washington, you don't have to tell the cop you're carrying.
Oh, duty to inform. That's one specific thing, but that is a big chunk I didn't even think about. But when you're new, you don't even you've been to a CCW class, so like the kind of like going to a driver's ed, the basics, but you assume that you don't know nothing, and you assume that you're about to get like lawyer quizzed or something. Like you're gonna walk into a building and somebody's like, "Oh, what's the precedent for you carrying that gun in here?" And you're gonna have to have some like closed book quiz on justification for why you're doing stuff. At least I'm guessing some people to some level of that.
Yeah, and that that's another time to know make sure you know where you can carry or not. No gun signs. Washington,
Yeah.
they don't carry the weight of law.
That might be different now. When I was first carrying, it wasn't new to Arizona, but it was new to me. But it was new to the country. So it wasn't like I could go online and just have conversations about people carrying because that didn't exist.
Yeah.
So nowadays you can't grow up in the United States or become a gun owner and not understand that a lot of people are carrying. Most people are carrying if they want to. So it's kind of common compared to, I don't know, a decade ago or more, I guess now. So I guess I'm saying like encounters with police back in the day when it was kind of uncommon to carry were just different than now, where police assume everybody's got a gun, probably.
Yeah, I can see that.
At least out here, I'm sure that most police figure, okay, everybody's going to have a gun.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I haven't run. That's one I haven't run into. Is
So
the
I've been pulled over while carrying a firearm, and even though there isn't a duty to inform, I I always keep my hands on the steering wheel so they're out in plain sight, and then I'll let the officer know, hey, I have a firearm. It's on my right side. I have no reason to go to that area. Most of the time they say, okay, you know, then, we just have the conversation. Um, I've, I've talked with officers, just walking down the road, end up in a conversation with a couple of them. Most of them didn't even notice that I had the firearm on my hip, open carrying. And if they did notice, they didn't really care.
I haven't been pulled over in probably more than 10 years. Couldn't even tell you. I know I got pulled over. The last time it was for speeding. I was doing like 10 over. And it was the officer, state patrol officer said, because it was raining, that I was going too fast. But, whatever. I was speeding. So
A lot of times
Can't
I'll
argue
get
about
pulled
it.
over by the like the female state troopers because they want to check out my sweet van, get selfies with it. So it's not so much I'm speeding as much as I got the sweet ride.
It's because you have that sign on the side of it that says free ammo. And so they want to find out what kind of ammo you're giving away.
No, it's the bumper sticker that says, if this fans are rocking, don't come a knocking. That lets him know he's down the party.
Imagine having a conversation with people like, oh, I can't go in there. I got my gun. Or like, oh, they're going to do something. I got to go drop my gun off. Because that's usually when it comes up, when you're like minding your business and there's some BS prohibition about carrying your gun in there. And that's when it comes up like, oh, I got to go back to the car. Why? Oh, well, because I got a gun.
Yeah, I haven't. I don't know. I don't think I've had to do that. Because usually I'll know, where I'm going if I can carry
Yeah,
or
I
not.
can't say it happens all that often to me either.
I do think about it now and again. If I go somewhere and I don't know, if it's basically a private function or private business or like a fair, some places, the fair doesn't use metal detectors. They'll look through your bags and stuff, but like
The Renaissance
Mariners,
Fair?
well, it's state fair, But the Mariners games back more than 5 years ago started. They put in metal detectors, so you can't. If you carry into there, then they'll know because you're gonna set off their metal detector.
You're
And
allowed
they-
to carry those little tiny baseball bats in there.
Yeah, you can carry bats. You can buy them there. You can have them engraved there.
Are they ineffective, or are they little clubs?
They're too small. So you got to go with the full size.
Now, one thing for new people is you can't carry at the post office, and you're not even supposed to carry truly in their parking lot.
Technically, their parking lot.
Unless it's like a shared parking lot with regular non-government garbage, and then you can claim it here and other, But yeah, most of the time it's a good point. You gotta, or a school, I suppose, if you're going in to pick up kids at a school, you gotta disarm to do that most of the time. Well, all the time.
Well, that
Yes.
really depends on your
Oh,
state.
no, that's true. Yeah, it depends on
Because,
the situation.
like,
yeah.
like here in Oregon, if you have your concealed handgun license, it depends on the district if
Right.
they're going to allow you to carry into the school or not into the school.
Yeah, because the gun-free skill zone bullcrap says you can't have guns on school zones unless you're got a reason to have a gun and a concealed carry permit in almost every state that I'm aware of. There might be an exception, but I'm not aware of it.
For Washington,
The permit,
if-
the exception is, or that's the exception. You got a permit, therefore you're allowed to be on the school.
For Washington, if you have a permit, you can be in the parking lot. If you don't have the permit, you can't carry on school property.
Oh, okay. But you're not going into the school.
No, I can't take it into the school.
Okay. Well, that's why your mileage may vary. Then check your local laws. But that's something that's a great point. Like schools, post offices, jails, nuclear power plants, courts. Am I missing something? Like the big national level.
For Washington, for the state,
Voting. You
it's
can't carry voting.
pretty much like courthouse, past security, hospital, past security, airport, past security. So you can carry up to security, but you can't carry past a secure area. So I could, like the airport, I can carry in the airport. I just can't go past the security checkpoint with.
Yeah.
So, if I drop my wife off at the airport, I'll usually carry my PPK. So it's more deep conceal. But I don't, I walk with her up to security and then, she goes through and I go home. Gary said, in my case, the post office parking lot is parallel along the street front, so you can carry in your vehicle. Our post office here in town, it is the post office and their parking lot. So it's not shared with anybody. So I can't carry when I go to the post office. Coop saying, right now I can carry on school grounds, like picking up my kids. As for post office, I carry in the post office all the time. I'm in Alabama. Well, I think he said the quiet part out loud. And for the most part, that kind of covers the, do what you want. Just I guess he didn't keep his mouth shut, but just keep it to yourself. Nobody's going to know.
Do you count like questioning what bullet to use? Like what model or what brand, I guess? What version? That's a billion options. So do you count that as being the new gun owner?
Well, one thing that did come up is with the person. Um, their new gun, they were using. They had steel case, and they were having malfunctions every so often with it. Then, so
The
that
handgun, they're using steel case ammo in a handgun.
yeah.
Yeah,
They buy
there's
it
a lot of
So-
manufacturers. There's a lot of manufacturers that are starting to like do steel case ammo for cheaper. Um, but you end up having to get your you're gonna probably have your light primer strikes on some of those cases. So in semi-autos, it's not that great to be using. I mean, you can use it. You can always get a little stronger striker spring.
Well, it brings up why you want to um, any gun that you're going to carry, shoot it. Make sure everything's going to run properly. Um, that way, if you know, like this ammo doesn't work, this gun doesn't like this ammo, then you find something that all works, so that if you ever, God forbid, have to use it, it's going to work.
Now, I won't use steel case or aluminum case ammo as the like your carry ammo. I use that. It's the nickel plated, critical defense.
Well, I told them, pretty much, well, you've got some range ammo you can use. That way, if you have a failure, it doesn't matter. Something to plank with, something to practice with.
Well, yeah, having your FMJs for practicing, you definitely want to do that. But you got to think about if you are carrying that as your carry ammo, you have a greater chance of over penetration and hitting somebody behind your target.
Honestly, that's something I don't ever think about. I'm not concerned with. I will carry full metal. Sometimes I have hollow points. Sometimes I have round nose. I'm fine with either.
I make the puppy carry these silicone rubber bullets so that he doesn't hurt anybody.
One thing is if you can get Minuteman ammo when it's in stock, that's actually really great because it's normally right like in between prices, so it's not as cheap as your FMJs, but it's not as expensive as your normal carry round ammo. So normally it's about 5-10 cents more than FMJs depending on your caliber. And so you can actually use that to practice with and to then carry because you are running hollow points.
I do have a bunch. They are a little more expensive, like you said. They're more expensive than range ammo. Not as expensive as self-defense, and I'd have to look at their data again, but I think tend to be more than your standard self-defense, but they're not up to like buffalo bore power. So you get good power, and I like that they're a Washington company, so I try and support the Washington company. It's just they sell out fast, so they're out of stock all the time. So it's hard. You got to catch it just right so you can buy stuff from them.
See, and I've wondered now, when is it not, the online sales of it sell out, out of sale. But if you go to their retail location, I wonder if they would actually have it in stock in their retail location. Because you know how they have different setups. So it's not like, hey, we're putting everything online. No, they're going to have certain amount that's going to be in their store for retail.
Yeah, I don't know. Screaming Skull said Federal HST, Spear Gold Dot, Underwood are my go-to carry ammos. I've got, I think, God, what the hell do I have? A Minuteman, and I can picture the box, and I can't think of the name. Sig. I know I've
Oh,
got
the V Crown.
Yeah,
The V Crown.
and something else. I don't know, but because I have diversified my calibers. I like having lots of calibers, so I've got lots of different bullets. And Scream Skull said, I've shot hundreds of rounds of gold dot through my guns. Never had an issue. So what else might somebody new to carrying run into?
False starts are like being paranoid or being overcautious, but like being concerned that their new responsibility or whatever is gonna needs to change their life, so they're gonna like take different. You know, I don't know if somebody's gonna if that's something that people go through once they're carrying for the first time and experiencing what it's like to go around with a gun on.
Yeah, and just carrying. Once you start carrying, the longer you carry, the more you kind of get over some of that nervousness, and the more comfortable you'll become.
And I don't know if that's something like driving. Like, it's difficult to say, like, not too many people are like come down from the moon and have never seen a car before and then have to learn how to drive through one class and then are out on the road. Like, they've grown up in a car and they've sat in the passenger seat a million times. They've watched a million movies. So they pretty much know how cars are and how they work. So when you actually become the driver, it's a little weird. So I think guns are a little different because you're not, there's not that. But then once you've carried a gun for a bit, then you realize, I think maybe people don't think about it, but you become a member of that club where you're one of those people that are carrying a gun around all the time. And you think about how many people there are. Like, people that don't carry guns probably don't think about how many people are carrying guns. People that carry guns, if you think about it at all, you realize that if you go into like a Walmart and there's 300 people in that Walmart, I don't know, 100 of them or 70 of them are carrying a gun, maybe more in Arizona, right? Like, once you're, I don't know what to call it, like in the club, like aware of that, reality or something. But I think that's part of it. You start to get, because there's responsibility and there's confidence. I don't know what to call it, but just like somebody who's got a car, you're going to walk a little bit differently because you can get home. You don't have to walk home or whatever. You're independent and you're, I don't know, kind of the opposite I was saying before, not apprehensive. You're probably learning to be, that you can go places. You don't have to worry about walking down an alley so much, maybe, or be concerned about it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching.
No, yeah.
How about the idea of when you go into places, you'd start thinking about things like, what if I had to? What if I had to? What would I do? Not just sitting in the place that makes it the best, advantage for you or whatever, the best, situation, but you start to game it or figure it out and you start to think about uh-oh, what if? And then let's say you're doing something where every day you're in a crowded thing that's kind of sketchy. Maybe that's when you decide to start carrying around an extra magazine instead of not, circumstances.
There are times, I will switch what I'm carrying based on that, where I want more capacity, or I want, I'm not worried about that, so lower capacity, maybe more power, or sometimes I just want, I want like my PPK, so it's 380, so it's not a lot of power, not a lot of capacity, but it's smaller, a little easy to carry, hides a little more. Um, one thing I do think about, like when I'm out and about with my daughter, is I keep her on my left side because my gun is on my right side. Partly to keep her from banging in my gun, and then partly if I need to use it, I want her, clear, so I don't have to move her and then
Well, that's a
draw.
good point. And that, like, what is that aspect like? The kind of the same thing about telling your family or being aware, like your family. Same thing as like a certain level of kids got to know not to be like, shout out, "Mommy's got a gun," or because of your gun, mommy, or that kind of thing. Like, there's that level of or that conversation maybe that has to take place at some point about going into public with other people. And just like you don't say, "Hey, what's in your pockets?" or "What's in your wallet," you're not going to say, "Hey, what's in your belt line?"
Yeah.
You can dance around the elephant in the room when you're going to make a caliber decision and figuring out when you made a horribly poor caliber decision.
Well, I'll state for the record, I don't care what anybody carries, what caliber, even if it's 9mm. If if that's what they feel comfortable carrying, as long as they're carrying something. There are calibers which I think are better, but I will carry 9. I will carry 357. I will carry 40. I will carry 380. Just depending on either the situation where I'm going or just how I feel. What I feel like
The
carrying.
person that started this conversation, is that's the kind of person that's going to do the research, be told however they came up to the decision to purchase what they purchased. Are they going to be satisfied with that purchase, or is that purchase the first of potentially many, and they're going to be delving in and exploring and buying and participating in the community type of thing? Is it like the beginning of something, or is it the one or maybe few purchases that they're going to even make?
For now, I think it's the one. I think he would like to have another, at least another, which I
So
would say yes.
like another for the wife, or like this is a pistol now, I want a rifle.
Well, I know one for the lady. He would like the lady to have one, and she's on the fence. But because I know, like for hiking, he kind of wanted a larger gun, but this was the kind of the compromise for you know something to carry every day, or if he goes hiking, it's something he can take with him. DJ saying, bet you can't just have one syndrome. I know that one. Yeah, because like
Is this
originally,
legal, or is this against the policy?
my plan was to have 3, a large gun, a small gun, and one AR. And I've kind of gone over that 3 a little bit. It's the way it goes.
Aren't you on like AR number 30 now and building?
No, not that many. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not. I'd have. I don't have a lot, but I can never remember the exact number of what I have. So every
Oh.
now and again, I'll take inventory and count to remind myself, and that's when I'll realize that whatever number I counted, it's like how can it be this number? Last time I counted, it was this many less. How did it grow like that? Roy Munson's out there. Good evening.
Is this somebody that will, now that they have this thing and this responsibility and this understanding there's a skill set to it, and they're at the beginning of that curve, are they going to seek out like practice or training or like coaching? Some people look at
Well,
it as
I think he does want to take like the range he belongs to does different courses. They do a carry course, they do a couple defensive handgun courses, and um, I believe he mentioned wanting to take those classes.
And then do you know that range? Is it going to be like, here's your basic intro to pistol, or here's your like, here's what it's like to have a pistol? Or is it going to be like training, and here you go. Like here's their intro class, and then you're going to want to take your advanced, and then that opens up your gateway into all the intermediate classes.
I haven't taken their. I belong to the same range. I haven't taken their classes, so I'm not sure exactly how they are. I know they're fairly popular.
And some
'cause
of them are
they
training,
will fill up.
some of them are competition oriented too. So they'll be like, here's your marksmanship, and then here's your general familiarization. But if you're going to get into the sports, then come back and we'll turn it into more of like coaching type training, like drills and techniques and coaching.
I think
Like,
it's
they're gonna look at you and figure out how you draw, and not say this is how you should draw, but look at how you draw and tell you how to draw better.
I know it's more self-defense oriented rather
Okay.
than competition.
Is that the person's mindset too? Like they're not like, oh, this is a new interesting hobby. Now that I have to carry a gun for protection, I'm also going to be a competition shooter.
So far, it's self-defense. But one of the other person that took to the range, he bought his first gun. He got into competition. I don't know if he's because of work. I don't know if he's doing too much more. But and he was using his carry gun to do the competitions because he was having fun.
I think of like somebody who gets a motorcycle to save money on commuting to work, and then figures out they really like driving a motorcycle, so they buy a Harley for the weekends, and their new pastime or hobby is making that Harley fancy and then taking it out and enjoying road trips or whatever. And is this the kind of person that's gonna potentially do that kind of stuff, or is this more like I needed a new jack for my car, I found one, I'm not going to get into the hobby of jacking up my car or nothing? Like it's just a tool that I use when I need it, otherwise I could care less about it.
I think for now it's just he wanted something for self-defense, and again for defense against animals if he's out hiking, and then just enjoying going and shooting now and again.
Then there might be some like going to the range and questions about that, or new experiences there. Oh, I didn't know I had to buy targets. Some places you have to buy the targets there. Some places don't even sell targets. And if you ask both of them, they act like theirs is the way that most ranges are. Like there's some real differences between ranges sometimes.
Yeah, the range is pretty. It's really good customer service. Everybody that I've dealt with that works there has been really really good, and they've got their targets there. You can bring your own targets, and it's nice. They're what I guess pretty cheap. Like a small 8-inch-ish target is like $1, and then the larger ones will be like $2. They sell ammo, but the ammo is a little more expensive. But I see it as they have it there kind of as a courtesy, so they're not doing it to make money. They're just doing it so people, if they need ammo, they can have ammo. So the cost is
It's
a little more.
it's kind of like, you know, going to 7-Eleven and getting ramen noodles versus going to like Safeway and getting ramen noodles. You know,
Yeah.
you got the convenience tax because it's a little closer to home. So, I'm going to pay a little more because I don't want to go all the way to town, yada, yada, yada. So, you got that convenience tax.
And it's one of the nice things too is it's a private club, so everybody's for the most part vetted. There's still, they'll get guests in there that aren't as squared away when they're using the range, we'll say. And it's small. There's a lot of members, but they don't all show up at the same time. So there's usually not a lot of people there.
Is it the range that I went to with you?
No, indoor. It's an indoor range. Yeah, I do like that outdoor range we went to, the Capital City Rifle and Pistol. Because
Don't they have an
like
indoor portion?
No, well, they do, but it's kind of like a pole barn, and you can only use that. You have to have permission to use that, and it's kind of like their 22 competition stuff. I don't know, something like that. So it's not, I'll never ever use it. But that one's kind of nice because there's it's also a private club, and there's no range officer there harassing you. Everybody's considered a range officer. As long as you're not doing something stupid, people, leave you alone. So hopefully we've covered some kind of new to carry stuff that might be helpful to people. Is there anything else we didn't cover that you think we should cover, either of you?
Also when you're carrying, like getting in and out of your vehicle, especially like your seatbelt, sometimes you got to think about where your seatbelt is to your carry position. Because like when you lock your seatbelt, you may be obstructing your holster. So you might have to think about that depending on the situation.
That is when I put my seatbelt on, I make sure that my jacket is out of the seatbelt, so it's not obstructing my gun. So
sandwiching it in there, like
yeah,
I don't know what to call that. Like you're putting on a straight jacket, essentially, like wrapping a bunch of stuff up and then sitting in it and then putting a strap around it. Like you're never getting that good.
Yeah, and I keep my keys on that side, and my right side. So all I have to do is just pull up on my jacket and kind of flick it to the side, and then the weight of the keys will kind of flop it open a little bit, so it's not covering.
Are they gonna get a vehicle safe? So when they're at a post office or something like what we talked about, and they just want to leave it, maybe they want to swim it or something. They just want to leave it.
I don't know. That's something we didn't talk about. I do have one that stays in my car all the time. The little clamshell type safe with the cable goes around.
Like under $30 usually.
Yeah. I don't use it very often, but I just keep it in there all the time because there's no real reason for me to take it out. And it slides under the seat so you can't see it.
Yeah, it's handy. What if you got to leave your wallet in there or something?
And the cable is long enough where I can reach down, pull it out, put it on my lap. I have used it before, but put my gun in it, slide it back, and you can't see that I just put a gun in there. Whereas
Or that
know,
you're jamming something underneath the seat, even, right? It just looks like
Yeah.
you're fidgeting around.
if I've seen on shows where somebody gets out, gets out of their truck, takes off their gun, and then puts it wherever they're going to put it. Well, everybody just saw that you put a gun in your truck, then you're walking away. The goddamn bacon's out there. And
So you get
are
a trunk monkey. You open up your trunk. There's a monkey in there. You give the monkey the gun and you close the trunk. I think that's a whole different scenario. Nobody's going to messing with that vehicle.
no, nobody will mess with the trunk monkey.
Yeah, but then you have that situation where, like, the monkey and the AK.
Well, overall, I don't trust monkeys or robots. So I do like the concept of the trunk monkey, but I would never have one because eventually it'll rip your face off.
What if it was like Bear, like it was BJ and the Bear. It was like your best friend.
I don't
Still
know.
not trusting that monkey.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you grew up with the monkey, somehow you grew up on an estate where there was a monkey, or you befriended a monkey, and then you grew up your whole life with this monkey, and then you're about to go in do something at the post office. I'm gonna be like, here, monkey, hold on to this gun. I think I could do that.
I have thought about like the console safes because there is one that's made for my car, but I didn't want to give up the utility of having my center console because then I would always have to do the combination. Like if I want to get my sunglasses, I got to do the combination. I want to, get a Kleenex, got to do the combination. And so I decided not.
What if you do the combination, but you get a bypass where, like, you put a hidden button next to your emergency lights or something, like on the the firewall up front, so you can just like step on a part of your carpet that no one's going to see, and that's bypass for your console lock. But then when you don't feel like doing that or the battery's out, you got your.
There was somebody that designed a company that designed a little safe that fit in between your seat and the console, and you pushed a button and your gun popped up out of it, but they never went anywhere. I can't remember what company it was, but it was really cool looking. And I waited and waited, kept watching, and they either the design failed or they couldn't get funding, ended up not going anywhere. But it was really cool. It's where you push the button, pop the gun right into your hand.
Doesn't oh crap, who is that? It's on when Cape Gunworks does his opening. It's like the Hornady safe or something like that. That like has a air bladder.
What?
That goes.
It was a little better than It was better than the wedge it in where somebody can just pull it out. Design.
Yeah,
Yeah. This one you wedge in there.
No. This one mounted. The thing I don't like about that, like I was saying, is it's just stuck in. It's basically like you stuck your gun in that spot. Somebody reach in, they can just pull it out.
Well, the thing is, there's like a cable that you lock to your chair or something, or your seat, I guess, and then they can still pull it out, like you're saying. But then there's going to be a cord. Like they're not going to be able to yank a cord. But
yeah, that's one thing I've thought about making a video on is like how strong are those? Is that connection? If I
keep honest people honest.
If I yank on it hard, is it just going to pop apart?
Yes. It's just a cable wrapped around with a little compression thing. So yes.
Yeah.
If you yank on it, it's either going to break or the cable's just going to break.
Yeah, the one I bought, I went for one with a little thicker metal on the safe and cable, just to hopefully make it a little harder.
And there is one. I think Vault-Tec makes one that mounts in your vehicle. Like you bolted in your vehicle.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the one I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, there's the Vault-Tec that mounts like next to your like passenger well or your driver, you know, footwell, and then it's like a thumbprint, and it releases the firearm. Vault-Tec has them, and I think there's a couple other safe companies that actually make ones that do that.
I have a Vault-Tec in the house, and one of the drawbacks to the fingerprint ones is if your finger's wet, like you just washed your hands, it has trouble reading your fingerprint. And every now and again, I'll have to redo the fingerprint. I don't know if it's my fingerprints changed or it just, bit rot and it comes up with an error. It still does have the keypad as the backup, but
What if you're out mountain climbing and all your fingertips get frostbited and you have to have them surgically replaced or whatever with donor fingertips? You never know.
I worked one of the grocery stores I worked at. I did frozen, and I lost my fingerprints from working. My fingers dried out
Can't
so bad.
you lose fingerprints from screwing around with pineapple or something too?
That could be. I don't know, but
I had fingers swell up or something.
I had a friend that worked for a police department, and he looked at my fingers and he goes, "Yeah, we wouldn't be able to get a fingerprint off you."
And that's when you decided to go into the bank robbery business, jewelry robbery, and whatever, like anything where you had to touch glass, no big deal.
Eventually, they did. I stopped doing that, and they came back. I still will have now and again. I'll have trouble with touch screens where I have to touch it a bunch of times or change
like
fingers.
Lick your finger or something.
Yeah.
Probably loss of the nerve endings or something that sends something through.
Yeah, I don't know if I've lost capacitance, so it can't read me. But
again, what if you are in some kind of a laboratory accident and all of your fingers need to be replicated with robot limbs? Then how are you supposed to get to your gun?
Well, then you can just have little missiles put into your fingers.
Oh, I thought you said a little R2D2 RoboCop thing where you can poke it into the safe and it'll open it through like some programming.
Nah, just missile fingers. So hopefully we covered some helpful tips and things to think about. If anybody has questions or suggestions, you can send them to me, email, or join the Gilded server. So anything you want to plug, G23?
Saturday, we'll be doing another one of the Can I Restore My Rights live streams, and we're going to be covering Florida, which was the voters' choice in last Saturday's poll.
The Gunshine State. G-Webs. Why don't you look at this?
That's the kind of move I would make, and then the police would pull me over and be like, "Can I get a selfie with that sweet band?"
Web design consulting, you name it, he can probably help you out. Gearwebsites.com. Anything you want to plug? Anything you got coming up?
Thanks for the link, and thanks for hosting. I've been sitting here I almost fell asleep earlier when I wasn't talking, and then I'm standing now to try to stay awake, and I almost fell asleep standing. So I'm gonna pass out pretty quick. But thanks for the show, and looking forward. What we got on a Saturday again?
Yep, we're doing overnight this weekend. Probably talk about what bad guys, how they pick their victims.
Oh, I thought you were talking about bad dogs. I was gonna say, I got one right here for you.
Thank you to everybody that was out there participating in the live chat. Those who said something or maybe didn't and were just lurking in the background. Appreciate you too. And if you watch this in replay, leave a comment. Let me know. Oh, and I forgot. I saw you, Artak. So I just wanted to say hello and say goodbye. Again, so there will be an overnight this weekend at 11 p.m. Pacific. Boo. And I think that's everything. So I hope everybody has a good rest of the night.